This episode is being brought to you by Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Alaska Realty. Whether you're investing in residential, buying or selling commercial properties anywhere in the state of Alaska, we're here to assist. To reach us, you can contact me at lottie@lottiemichael.com or my cell phone, 907-242-7603. And for comments or questions about residential properties, reach out to Connie Yoshimura at 907-229-2703, 229-2703. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Connie and Lottie podcast on real estate in Alaska for the entire great state. We're so happy to be here today with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Alaska Realty. And we're just going to have a conversation about what's going on in the real estate world and in the state of Alaska. We're going to try and stay away from national politics, but we're going to talk about everything that's going on. So, Lottie, let's start with you. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So every time I drive up and down C Street, I see offices and buildings for sale. So tell us about what's going on in your world in that marketplace.
The commercial market's really quite busy. I've done this several years, and the market is as busy as I've ever seen it. So an up-to-date or year-to-date 2026, I would say we're in a very strong market. So strong, a lot of people are saying, you know what? Let's take something off the table. So they're putting their properties on the market, trying to sell them. They're putting downsizing or right-sizing and leasing some excess space. So there's a lot of movement, which is a healthy market, in my opinion. I think that's the question answered on C Street.
A lot of mixing and movement. I like what you said by right sizing. So do you find that offices are actually downsizing with less brick and mortar?
Well, there are offices that are downsizing, and there are offices that are increasing their footprint. I got a call this morning from a medical practice. They're increasing their footprint by 50%. So we can't say brick and mortar is going away and it's all on the internet, because that's simply not true. It's a very simplistic statement. In my opinion, it's not at all accurate.
I rarely ever talk about real estate brokerages, but I do. There's so much movement right now with new franchises coming into town, and everyone's, from what I can tell, downsizing. But at Berkshire Hathaway, we still believe in brick and mortar, because in my world, in my residential world, it's the most important decision that a buyer makes or a seller
Let me
makes.
just say this. Let's think about it like this. I have an office in my home. I don't really go to it every morning. If something comes in my mind in the middle of the night, I might go downstairs and turn on the computer and do a minute of research. But when I am serious about my practice, I come into the office. If I were to call a doctor, I would want him to be in his office. I wouldn't want him to be in his basement watching cat videos and then telling me to ice my knee. So I think it's just what you expect and what you hope from your professionals. So same with engineers and attorneys and accountants. I don't really want them working out of their house and thinking of their job as more of a avocation rather than a vocation. I want them to be serious about their work. So I think what we're seeing is everybody is going back to work. They might be taking a day a week working from home or working remotely, but I think people are going back to the office in every profession. That's what I see. In the real estate, I remember when Century 21, that kind of dates you, came into the Alaska market, and everyone was talking, oh, franchises. Franchises come and then franchises go, and then there's a darling and then there's not a darling. And if some of us are looking for an easy answer, I haven't found it yet. So good luck with that.
I do a lot of work with the East Coast because I have relationships out there, particularly with Berkshire Hathaway. And so I took a call when I shouldn't have, and I was at home. and I have this puppy, and he was barking, and I was so embarrassed. And there's nothing you can do under those
No.
circumstances. And we just had a good laugh about it, and he kept barking, and he kept barking. And that's a call I wish I hadn't made at that particular time, because it was at 7 o'clock in the morning, my time. It was noon their time, or wherever, 11 o'clock. And I shouldn't have made that call, because it was really very unprofessional. So I just have to remember that. And so I'm a victim of that as well as anyone else. I like your idea of when you think of something in the middle of the night, get up, write yourself a note, go to your computer, and then take care of it. And then take care of it in the morning. So in my world, in the residential market, we have seen an increase in inventory, but there's still these multiple offers between, I would say, $400,000 and $800,000. People are really, we have such a lack of inventory, and builders can't build for anything less than probably $350 a square foot at the very, very best, which means houses are a nice house is $850,000 to $1.2 million.
Okay, so that's interesting, Connie. So when the city is trying to get involved in the real estate business and talk about real estate property tax abatement, that's just such a small amount of value on the payment or the lease rate. It's negligible. It sounds like that's not going to make any difference at all on the affordability. And maybe we should be more realistic in, maybe there isn't, maybe affordability is a
dead
conceptual.
Well,
Not a dead topic, but maybe not everybody gets to buy a home for their first home at $500,000. Maybe we all need to start at something less, and it's not our dream home, but it gets us, like you say, on the ladder of ownership. Get on the first rung, let inflation and appreciation help you.
The biggest mistake you can make is not to buy. And even if it's a 40 or 50-year-old 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo for $200,000, get started with it. And I was talking to a young man who said, we didn't buy a single family home, we bought a duplex, right? And you can live in that duplex. The tenant can help make that mortgage payment, and you only have to live in it for a year, and you have the benefit of appreciation, and then you can go to the next duplex or fourplex or single family home, and that's how you get started. The biggest mistake is just to wait.
Yeah, to sit on the sidelines. It's a mistake
Commercially,
it sounds like
and residentially.
Exactly. In commercial, you don't really get to make that decision. You need a place for your business. You need a warehouse, or you need a retail storefront. You need real estate, or you can't put out your shingle.
You and I had an interesting conversation just briefly. You made a comment that you don't order from Amazon. Talk to me about that.
You want to get political?
I don't want to get
I don't have any respect for Jeff Bezos, and I'm not going to give money to anyone I don't have respect for. I don't appreciate what he's done to middle America or anywhere downtown. They've been gutted, and we're all paying the price. And at some point, we're going to wake up and realize that. But if I can't find a pair of shoes, and I have freakishly little feet, if I can't find a pair of shoes in Anchorage, Alaska, I don't go to Amazon. I might have to buy them online, but
not through Amazon.
Not through Amazon.
Okay.
And there's a big difference. And a lot of people may not want to buy from certain countries that don't have fair trading, or that's above my pay grade. I don't know that. But what I do know is real estate, and I do know that what Amazon has done to downtowns all across the country is not healthy. It's not healthy. And we're very short-sighted to think that I can get my toner for my computer delivered tomorrow. Yeah, but you could also call a local business supply store and they'll deliver it, locally owned. Or you could call Home Depot, or Office Depot, they'll deliver it to your house. Costco delivers. And all of those businesses have bricks and mortar. They pay property taxes, they pay utilities, they pay salaries, all in our communities. To me, that's valuable. To me, I'm being a responsible citizen. People may or may not agree with me, but for me, it works. I won't buy Amazon.
I have to say that every once in a while, I see Amazon packages at the front desk here.
Yep.
And that is something to really think about, right? To use even if it's a franchised business like Home Depot or whatever, those people that work there, they live here.
Yeah.
And those managers live here and they buy houses,
And
right? They pay property taxes.
And they pay all the
right.
taxes that we are hidden. They pay alcohol tax, gas tax, tobacco tax, all the taxes that we don't even think that we're paying taxes, but we all are. So
the city has a wide variety of things that they've tried to accomplish. They turned all the R1 zoning into R2 so that you could have an ADU or an accessory dwelling unit or another freestanding building, home, on your lot. But what they didn't realize is that the lots couldn't support that as setbacks and all that sort of thing are concerned. And so we haven't had a lot of movement. The movement in the 10,000 homes in 10 years is really only occurring with more rental properties. And of course, I'm a home ownership advocate. And
if we look down, if we could see the future in 10 or 15 years,
yes,
and see what we look like based on a community of homeowners or a community of primarily renters, and then think about what we want it to be. And I agree with what you're saying.
We need rental housing, and I'm not opposed to rental housing. I once had 152 apartments at one point in time, but the reality is it's home ownership that makes a community. And there are people that say that, economists that say a community, a municipality can't support home ownership because of schools and all of the requirements that go with home ownership. But there's also something else, and that is a belief in your community. When you are investing in your community, you can touch and feel and live in your investment. And it creates a better, in my opinion, you've said it really well, a better community.
Yeah.
We want to take a quick moment to thank Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Alaska Realty for supporting this episode. One of the things we appreciate about our team is that our agents do far more than open a door. We help clients understand neighborhoods, evaluate investment opportunities, navigate commercial leases, prepare homes for sale, and make smart long-term real estate decisions. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a growing business looking for office space, or a national or international Fortune 500 company exploring opportunities in Alaska, we're here to facilitate and help you. Visit Berkshire Hathaway Home Services AlaskaRealty.com to connect with Lottie Michael at 907-242-7603 or Connie Yoshimura at 907-229-2703.
After World War II, the federal government decided that it would be a good thing for the VA to offer incentives for the veterans returning home. And it was a fabulous thing. It allowed people to get started on that home ownership. It helped them get started on building wealth, generational wealth. So we can say what we want about rental housing. Rental housing doesn't do that except for the property owner.
That's correct.
And the property owner is increasingly all over the country becoming more of a REIT than it is your next door neighbor with 2 or 3 fourplexes. Now it's a REIT based out of New York with some,
investors.
Yeah,
exactly. That was the beginning of the 000 down. And then they followed that later with the FHA.
And we need all of these.
We need all of
those incentives for ownership. We don't need those incentives for rentals. We just don't. And the incentives of lowering the property tax, that's not the barrier. That's not the barrier of entry. It's a number, but it's not the barrier. We're solving the wrong problem. We're solving a problem that's we think is easy to solve through a soundbite.
What I can tell you as a residential land developer, what we need is programs for infrastructure. You can have DOT.
Yes, exactly.
You can have DOT build a road, but they're not cooperating with a municipality or a borough to extend water and sewer. right? So the big cost in residential development has to do with infrastructure. And then you get zoning requirements that you can only really develop for a profit if you can have lots on both sides of the road. And that's what's really very important. But you can't, residential land developer cannot have a margin of profit that is required for borrowing by putting in offsites that have no benefit to the development that you're actually trying to accomplish. I mean,
so that would be better time spent and better money. That would actually produce the hope for results rather than a soundbite saying, we're doing all of this. Of course, no one's going to take advantage of it. 2 or 3 apartment developers are going to become wealthy, but for the most part, no one else does. I mean, the tenant doesn't get a break on their rent. We go from
they will have increases in their rent.
Yes, I mean, we go from signs that say workforce housing, once they get all their incentives through the city, then the sign switches, and honestly, this happened to
luxury apartments.
So, yeah, the apartment owner's doing very well, but the tenant, not so much.
The tenant will have pass-through expenses for taxes, increase in gas and electric. The owner of the apartment building doesn't take care of all of that. They pass it on to their tenant.
Yeah.
So there's no opportunity. So you compare that to home ownership. You have an increase for taxes, gas, and electric, for example, but at least you have the benefit, at least the hopeful benefit of appreciation in the marketplace. But when you rent, you don't have that benefit. You're just getting more expenses that are passed through from the REIT or the individual property developer and owner of the apartment building.
Remember, whether you rent or buy, whether you own it or whether you rent it, you're paying for that building.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're paying for it, you probably want to own it.
So we have the largest percentage of veterans in our state compared to any other state as well. And so we want to encourage them to purchase while they have that opportunity to do.
Yeah.
And there are now changes with FHA as well that will.
Are they raising limits, or what is FHA doing?
They raise limits every year, all right. And the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, the best program that I have seen in the last couple of years to help home ownership is if you buy a new construction home and it is a 5-star plus home, they give the buyer a $10,000 rebate. And that's for any price point. And so to me, that is the best program that's come out in the last 2 years to help home ownership.
Okay, so what does it cost? What's the differential between a 5-star and a non-5-star? Does it cost $30,000 to do all of the? What does it cost?
It's a blower door. It's a blower door test. Seriously, it's hardly. It's a builder might disagree with me, but I can't believe that it would cost more than $2,000 or $3,000. There is,
I know on commercial it's prohibitive,
but not residentially.
Okay,
all right. I'm sure someone is going to write in or call in and say,
that'd be great. I love to get those letters.
You're crazy. It costs a lot more. But when I've talked to a builder, it's a blower door test. Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So that's the best program because it goes directly to buyers and it encourages home ownership in all price points, because the housing ladder, right now I know of homeowners that are trying to increase and build on an extra room or two so that they can stay in place because it's a multi-generational family, or if it's a family with a couple of children and they need more space. People need more interior space. I know of a triple car garage where one bay is being converted into a workout area. So garage space is less expensive than finished interior spaces. And these big garages, they still have a significant cost to them, but they're using them for other things, whether it's a workout space, whether it's for these long, what do you call them? I'm not very familiar with.
Like RVs or something?
RVs, but also quilt making.
Oh,
that
long arm. It's a long arm.
Yep, they use it for long arms. So those spaces, I think, are really very important, and they're a little less expensive on a per square foot basis than if you have carpeting or extra plumbing and all that sort of thing.
So what do you see for the balance of 26? You think we're gonna end up strong? We're gonna be flat?
I think it's flat. Yeah. I don't see a lot of movement, at least not right now in the marketplace. We have a lot more inventory coming into the market, which we always have in the summer time. But with interest rates at 6.5 or 6.25, as far as mortgages are concerned, I think that buyers are not buying at the maximum amount they can afford, which I think is really very smart. They're not stretching their budget as far as home ownership is concerned.
That's reassuring.
And I think that is really very important. And then I'm also very encouraged by the 15-year mortgage. I think more people should consider that. You can take a 30-year mortgage and you can simply pay it as if it is a 15-year and increases your payment so you don't have that risk. But I think anything you can do to assist yourself with paying down that mortgage is to get rid of debt. Yeah, to get rid of debt at this particular point in time.
Probably always. I don't think debt's our friend. Not on your home.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be speculative on homes. Anyway.
Because that's a family environment. One of the things that I'm looking at is I would like to buy a park. I'm going to say that out loud, and I know it's very controversial, but when I drive around Anchorage, I see a lot of neighborhood parks, and no one's in them. And that's because people are afraid to let their children go outside to a neighborhood park, really. Yeah. They would rather have their land in a back door, or at least for a backyard, or at least to be in a cul-de-sac, right? So they can see their children. Because of our crime and because of all of the social activities that are going on that are negative in our community, these neighborhood parks are abandoned. But I would say to you, these neighborhood parks are right next to residential homes, right? And so they have gas, electric, water, and sewer and a road to them. So if you want some more affordable housing, we should be looking at these little neighborhood parks. Now, I know that's
Do you want to argue? Maybe what we really should do is take back our parks.
No, I agree with you. There is the Great Land Trust, and there are lots of conservation opportunities, but we have more parks on a per capita basis than any other state or city, or probably in the nation on a per capita basis. Parks have value. They contribute to values. I have built a trail or two myself in developments, but what people really need is more affordable housing. And it's much more affordable if you can take a 2 or 3 acre park, a neighborhood park that nobody goes to anymore, right? And it's got roads, water, sewer, gas, and electric. All right, I want to buy a park. That's what I want to do. That's my goal. But it's probably never going to happen.
My concern with that is it'll be the neighborhoods that are the lowest on the economics ladder. So if we look at the demographics, it's going to be in neighborhoods where we absolutely need the park. And yes, I'm sure that unsavory things are happening in the park, but I think we're solving the wrong problem there. I would like to see it handled different, but that's another podcast.
That's another podcast altogether. But what I'm saying is, let's just say you take a 3 acre parcel or a 4 acre parcel or even 10. You can still create a common area around if you did it in a circle, for example. And so families could use that park, but they could look out the window and they could see their children. And it would be a much safer environment for that. So it's not doing away totally with the park and putting in 10 units per acre or whatever, or 10 units on a 8,000 square foot lot. You can make it such so that there is common open space, but you can see it and it's from the home. And that makes a huge difference.
What I see in the commercial segment for the balance of 26, is I think the market's going to remain this strong, and I think it is strong. I think there's some good money out there if you need to borrow money. I think there's some opportunities. I think, like you said, driving down C Street, you see all these signs. Those are opportunities. I'm very bullish on the market. I feel very comfortable that we're in the right spot at the right time.
I would agree with you. There's no better place to live and invest than Alaska. At this particular point in time, I can't think of another state
Exactly.
that will provide more opportunities.
Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure what our next podcast is, so you have to tune in and find out for yourself.
All right. We look forward to hearing from
Thank
all
you.
things real estate. Thank you. Now, tell us, how long have you been in the real estate business?
I'm going into my 19th year.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
congratulations, really.
I am.
What did you do before you went into real estate?
I was in the title business.
Mhm.
Yeah, I worked with commercial real estate. So I did mainly commercial real estate with the marketing department and did some title and some escrow as well.
Mhm.
And prior to that, I was in the residential side of title insurance and escrow. And it was a great transition to go from there to real estate because the one challenge was that all of my sphere of influence were all realtors.
You also have another love, which is some athletic opportunities, right? So
Yes.
tell us about those.
So part of my longtime career in real estate involved me also coaching at West Anchorage High School for cross-country running, track and field. I was the head coach there for quite a few years. And it was just great giving back to the community, working with the young kids, their parents, the West Anchorage community. It feels like I'm calling myself a Westie, even though I live in the downtown area. So yeah, and it was a wonderful way of giving back. Got a lot of enjoyment and fulfillment out of it.
Well, I think that coaching is really part of real estate as well, right?
Yes, very much
It's
so.
just a different skill set and different knowledge, but it is still all about coaching people through
Right.
one of the most important transactions of their life. But you made a switch several years ago in real estate. You were still in real estate, but you switched from direct listing and sales into sort of a luxury boutique property management company. And I remember I remember saying, Ruth, why would you want to do that? You were a very successful realtor. So tell me about that experience and what you've gained and learned and why you love doing that.
So
now,
it wasn't so much of a switch as it was more of a additional service I offered because my main clientele is still going to be going to be working with buyers and sellers, but you're going to find there's always a need for housing, and some people just are not in a position to buy, or they have decided not to because they're only going to be here so many years. So there's always a need for housing. So I decided to go do a small boutique property management company at a certain price point, and that way I would market myself that way, and then I would be very hands-on. I'd offer a service where I'm very communicative. I'm available when something needs to be done. I immediately called them back. And I saw a need for that. There was one-on-one, contact and lots of interaction between not just the owners, but also the tenants as well.
well, I think that's an exceptionally nice part of a real estate career. And how much longer are you going to sell real estate?
Till I'm not breathing anymore.
I think that's right. That's how I feel. No, really,
Yeah, no.
because it is a life. It is a lifestyle, and it's really very rewarding.
It
right?
really is.
Because you're helping people at a very important time in their life, whether they're sellers or whether they're renters. And you found a niche in the marketplace that I think was really, really lacking, which was professional, hands-on, day-to-day opportunities for sellers to find a good leasing agent to work with. Is there an additional charge for pets?
Yes, there is. Because I always encourage a pet deposit per pet.
Per pet. All right. Okay.
I always
there he is now. He's paying attention right
per
now.
pet. So pet deposits are really important because some people say, well, just raise the monthly rent. Could I do that? And I go, well, you're not going to get the benefit just raising the monthly rent. What you want to do is have a deposit. It gets deposited into the owner's account. Their security deposit, the tenant's security deposit, goes into the trust account of Berkshire Hathaway, but the pet deposit goes directly to the owner. And then they have the driver's wheel with that, because I do the final walkthrough with the tenant, and if it's in normal condition, not if it's usual wear and tear, not unusual wear and tear, then they'll get that deposit back. But if there's wear and tear from the pet, that deposit will get kept for.
So any final words of advice for renters? How can renters be competitive if the market is so tight? How can a renter, a potential tenant, get prepared?
Well, they need to have a good rental history, because I do a thorough background check. And if I find that they've always paid their rent on time, that they've got the owner of the property or the property manager says that they left the place in great condition, they paid their bills on time, their utility bills, they paid their rent on time, and have a good credit score, they're going to be the most desirable candidate for the owner to pick. And good job, history. I always call the employers to verify their job and their salary amount, all of that. And I get permission, of course, from, the tenant knows that up front, that's what I'm going to be doing through the background interview process.
Thanks again to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Alaska Realty for sponsoring this episode. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in the great state of Alaska, be sure to contact us. Connie Yoshimura at 907-229-273, or for commercial activity, Lottie Michael, CCIM at
907-242-7603.